What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. It's been a few weeks. We're now in the year 2022. I never properly said Happy New Year, so Happy New Year. I know it's a bit late, but better late than never, right? So, yesterday I ended up going to my local mall, and I got this really interesting soda that is apparently buffalo wing flavored. Now, I've never tried this before, but I love buffalo wings and I love cream soda. So let's try this. That's not that bad. At least not as bad as I thought it would be. Alright, onto the main video. So, about a year or so ago, I made a video about, like, the worst movies that I've ever seen, and I believe I only had about 3 movies on there, but I also had a little bit of a list of movies that I was disappointed by, but I also enjoyed them. So, because that video specifically was just a mashup of video clips of me just playing some video games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Batman Arkham Knight, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, that kind of stuff, with the worst audio recording that I've probably ever done in my life. Because at the time, I believe I was recording that while I was in my car, parked somewhere down the road from where I live in the middle of winter, and I was recording it on my phone, and that just has the worst audio recording software. So today I'm basically going to be remaking that video, although there is one addition to it. If you've seen my latest video, you'll know which one it is. But without further ado, let's get to it. And I think I'm gonna be drinking this soda while I do this review. And before I start, I guess I'm gonna make this pretty clear. So for me, a movie isn't the worst unless it's just utterly boring for me. Like, I feel nothing going in, I feel nothing coming out. So movies like Star Wars The Last Jedi, or Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, or even Batman and Robin, those aren't going to be on this list because I've still felt some kind of enjoyment or entertainment from it. Now, usually that entertainment is from how stupid it is, but my point still stands. If I can still find even a tiny bit of enjoyment out of it, then I do not consider it one of the worst movies. But with that all being said, let's move on to the list of movies that I was disappointed in, but I still found enjoyment in them. And what kind of sets these apart from, like, the objectively bad movies that I've already mentioned is that for movies like that, I will admit I went in there without high hopes, and, well, they didn't raise my hopes at all. Like, say, a couple years ago, I watched the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd movie, and I went in knowing that it was going to suck. And I was right, but I still found enjoyment from how stupid it was. Now, for these movies that I'm about to talk about, these ones I actually did have high hopes for, and even though I found enjoyment in them, they still disappointed me. Starting off this list is going to be ScoobyDoo Return to Zombie Island. This was a direct-to-video movie that came out, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. I can't quite remember, but it's supposed to be a direct sequel to the original Zombie Island movie that came out in the late 1990s. I remember seeing the original Zombie Island when I was really little at my grandparents' house. And I'll be honest, that movie actually scared me. Like, I know it sounds silly, but I was actually scared by the zombies in that movie. The whole concept of that movie about how, like, this is the first time that the monsters are real. Like, the zombies are real, the ghosts are real. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but you should see it. Like, the cat creatures that these certain characters turn into, they're real as well. And like this was really the first movie. This was really the first Scooby-Doo movie where like the supernatural and the supernatural occurrences like were genuine. Like it wasn't just some guy in a mask this time. And then the Return to Zombie Island movie, it just threw all that away. Where they go back to the same island, they go back to the resort. They act like they've never been there before, even though Shaggy and Scooby are constantly saying, like, yeah, we've been here before. We've already done this, so what's going on? So then there's this new mystery about how... crap, I can't even remember what it is. No, there is no mystery, because the mystery gets solved within 5 minutes, and the real culprit is this film crew who wants to make a movie based on the Scooby-Doo gang. And so right off the bat, it's already revealed that they're just guys in masks again. There's no mystery. They're trying to shoot a movie. And it's not until the very end where there's this one cat creature or whatever who had been stalking them throughout the film, where at the very end they say like, oh, well, we never caught this guy, so maybe it was real after all. So they kept flip-flopping back and forth on what was real and what wasn't. Oh, and by the way, just to slip in another middle finger, they even tried to retcon the events of the original Zombie Island movie to being just guys in masks for that too. So they already tarnished the whole spirit of the original with its sequel, and then they decide to retcon the events of the original film as well. So that just felt like a whole spit in the face. But I did still find some enjoyment out of the film. I did laugh at some of it. I do consider it just to be like a harmless, fun kids movie. I just wish that they actually respected the original movie. So that was Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. Next on the list is Agent Cody Banks 2. I might be cheating a little bit, but I didn't have too much high hopes for the first movie because I considered it to be like basically like a Disney kid version of James Bond, and I'm not even sure if Disney made that movie. They probably did though. But I had no high hopes for the first Cody Banks movie until I actually watched it. And that one was actually pretty fun, especially with having like Ian McShane as the villain. Then we get to the second movie, and it is more or less a rehash of the first. Only instead of the main villain using like these nanites that can eat through any kind of material, it's now this evil guy who wants to basically control the minds of all the world leaders. So it's basically a kid version of what the Kingsman the Secret Service did. That was already a step down, in my opinion. But basically, it was just a cookie cutter a rehash of the original, but did have a cool fight scene with the song War, What Is It Good For playing over it. So they get points for that, and I guess that's the thing that saved it from being one of the worst movies on my list. But I don't really consider that being a high bar because, like I said, it's more or less a cookie cutter rehash of the original. Okay, next up on the list is Happy Death Day to You. Now, I remember seeing the first Happy Death Day And my hopes weren't very high because I had no faith in Blumhouse, and that's on me. I had a preconception that Blumhouse would be too tame. I didn't have high hopes given the fact that the movie was rated PG-13, but my hopes soared when I actually saw the movie. The whole idea about a slasher movie, but the main character gets revived every single day. That's a pretty cool concept. I don't think I've seen that before in a horror movie or a slasher movie yet. Well, before I saw Happy Death Day. So when the trailers came out for Happy Death Day to You, and they were showing us like all these different things, like where that one Asian character from the first movie, he's staring at like a clone or a doppelganger of himself that's in the babyface costume. I was really pumped because I thought that there would be multiple killers, and B, the killers would be like the main characters from alternate dimensions. And when I saw the second movie, I was sort of right, because the main character did go into like an alternate dimension or an alternate timeline or whatever. But that whole scene with Ryan and Ryan is the Asian character from the first movie. That whole scene with Ryan and his doppelganger in the babyface costume, they do nothing with it. Like, he's there for the first 15 or so minutes, and then the main character Tree gets sucked into that alternate dimension, and that's it. We never see the doppelganger again. But at that point, it's just a rehash of the first movie, kind of like with Agent Cody Banks. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have been disappointed in the movie if they actually stuck with the whole doppelgangers storyline, or heck, just gave some closure, like at the end, like say like, oh, the doppelganger got sucked back into his world, which might have actually happened. It's just that they didn't explain it. All in all, I still enjoyed that movie. Although, like with Agent Cody Banks, that's only because it's just a rehash of the first movie, and the first movie was great. Therefore, by proxy, this one, at the very least, was okay. But that's enough talking about Happy Death Day to you. I'm about to go on a rant about that if I keep talking. Next up on this list, Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons. Originally, this one was supposed to be like a series on the CW Seed, but I guess they couldn't get the funding, so they decided to add in some more scenes and then just make it a full-on movie. And I was really excited because even though it wasn't connected to the CW, I became a quick fan of the character of Deathstroke. I loved his boss fight in Batman Arkham Origins. I loved that you could play him as a DLC character. Manu Bennett's portrayal of him on Arrow and other shows was fantastic. So I was really pumped to see him get his own movie, even if it was a cartoon. Boy, did I not care for it when I finally saw it. So I believe the team who worked on that were the same people who worked on the movie Constantine City of Demons, and I still didn't like it that much. And the biggest reason I didn't really like that movie was because of the animation. The animation, to me, just looked cheap and just awful. Like, if I had to compare it to a really recent movie, if anyone's seen trailers for Night of the Animated Dead, the animation looked a little bit like that. Maybe a little bit sharper, but not by much. And then the only other reason that I didn't really care for the movie, or I was disappointed by it, was because to me all the characters are unlikable. Like Deathstroke is unlikable in this movie. Really early on, Slade even admits to that, like, oh yeah, he slept with this one woman in Cambodia while he was married, or at the very least engaged or something. But either way, and it was a point made that he cheated on his significant other at the time, Adeline Kane. And then a little bit more so down the line, it's revealed that one of the villains is actually Slade's daughter. So they already made their main character unlikable. Neither Adeline Kane nor his friend Bill Wintergreen, they weren't given nearly enough screen time for me to even have an opinion on them. The villains of the movie, Slade's daughter, who is supposed to be a version of Queen Bee. I guess by proxy that makes his son Jericho also a villain because he teams up with her. And this one other guy called Jackal, who I think is supposed to be a different version of the Jackal character from the comics, because I'm pretty sure originally he was supposed to be Slade's other son, Grant, in the comics. There's also this other guy named Jackal, who he's basically just a bookend. He turns out he had this daughter that Slade killed. So, in all honesty, like I was kind of rooting for the villains at some points, but I don't know. Aside from that, the action scenes were pretty fun. There was an interesting Bronze Tiger cameo that also wasn't much to write home about. Like if they didn't focus on Jericho having powers and just focused on Slade just being a mercenary, I probably would have liked it way more. But even then, that still wouldn't have saved it from like the poor animation, in my opinion. So I don't know, it still would have ended up on my disappointing movies either way. But that's it for Deathstroke. And the last two disappointing movies that I got, I'm actually going to combine the two because I was disappointed in them for the same reasons. So, the last two are the extended cuts of both Spider-Man Far From Home and Halloween Kills. Now, if you guys have seen my thoughts on the extended cut of Halloween Kills, you already know what I'm going to say about that one. And you might even know what I'm going to say about Spider-Man Far From Home movie as well, because I talked about that in the video. But the link to my full thoughts on that will be in the description. But basically, so Far From Home first, and this is actually the one that actually pisses me off more than Halloween Kills. So, turns out the extended cut for Far From Home was only extended by 2 minutes. And the only extended scenes were, they had the Peter's To-Do List one-shot that they had already released. They reinserted it into the film. And then there was this other scene that featured Mysterio just waiting for Nick Fury to call him. That was inserted into the film because I don't think that was ever released. So they only had 2 extended scenes that were about a minute long each. And what made me pissed off the most about this was that they re-released it into theaters. They re-release a movie into theaters where you only get to see 2 additional minutes of footage. And I'll be honest, I'm ashamed for paying the full ticket price for that. The original movie was great. I'm not saying that the original Far From Home movie was bad in any way. Mysterio was great. Peter Parker was alright. That whole hallucination sequence, especially with the zombie Iron Man, was fantastic. But the extended cut definitely was not worth the extra money that I paid, especially when you could have just watched those scenes on YouTube. Okay, so that was the extended cut of Spider-Man Far From Home. The extended cut of Halloween Kills didn't piss me off as much, but it still made me kind of mad, because they only add 3 minutes of footage to the film. And the whole more thrills, more kills thing, they didn't do. I think they only had 2 kills, and it was during the final sequence where Michael's just slaughtering everybody, including Tommy Doyle, in the middle of the street, so you don't even know which kill was like the additional one. The more thrills thing, as far as I could remember, there's a scene where Karen, I thought, is at the coroner's office looking for her husband Ray, because he died at the end of Halloween 2018. And the coroner is just yelling at her to leave. And it's this really weird close-up of the coroner that just feels so out of place, because I don't think there's any other shot that's like it in the entire film. And then there's this... there is this like scene where that one old couple is playing around with the drone, and you actually see through the drone's camera. That was actually pretty cool, I think. Wish they kept that into the original movie. There's a moment where Marion Chambers, that one nurse from the original film, she's talking about how nobody believed what Michael was and what Michael was truly capable of. And in my opinion, that just makes like every person's decision in this movie worse, because all that does is tell me that they still aren't taking Michael seriously. Like you have Marion just a few minutes later wasting all of her ammo on shots that aren't even remotely next to Michael, and when she finally gets a clean shot at him, she has no bullets left. And then the people next to her are stupid, trying to fight him with a stethoscope. And then that one lady getting too close to Michael and ending up shooting herself in the face because Michael kicks the door of the car that he was in. And then just later in the movie, when everyone starts attacking him like one by one, when he gets up and reveals that he's not dead after like everyone started beating on him. Like even Laurie's granddaughter Allison and her ex-boyfriend Cameron, like his dad Lonnie, who I completely forgot was in the original Halloween, he goes into the Myers house alone, and he knows that Michael Myers is in there, and he still goes alone. And he ends up dying. Cameron and Allison go along. They split up. And, well, Cameron dies. Allison gets crippled. And it's not until Karen actually shows up and leads Michael away towards that little angry mob of people where finally someone's doing a smart decision in actually like having the mob beat the crap out of him, like everyone on him. and then even that one gets squandered when, again, during that slaughter scene, everyone's just attacking him one by one. So that whole scene with Marion saying like how nobody except Loomis knew what he was capable of and took him seriously, that just made the character decisions even worse, in my opinion. Oh, and there was a first-person shot of that one Danny DeVito inmate, which I do like the first-person shots, because those ones actually had you guessing, like, is that one Michael, or is that just the inmate? Or until it was revealed that it was the inmate, but I don't know. Honestly, I'm getting a little bit tired of these extended cuts. Like back several years ago, there were extended cuts that would have like 15 or 20 minutes of additional footage, and like it actually made a difference with the film. Like it actually contributed. Like the ones that I'm thinking off the top of my head are, I believe, the director's cut of Daredevil and also the director's cut of both of Rob Zombie's Halloween films, because they actually added in quite a bit for those ones. Like, and not just like blood and gore and sex scenes. Like, there were plenty of additional scenes that flesh out some of the characters and motives and everything. Now, I'm not expecting extended cuts to be like Zack Snyder's Justice League, where it's 4 hours long, or even more generous, like the Batman v Superman Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition, which had 30 minutes of additional footage. But I do think that it's not too much to ask to have at least 10 to 15 minutes of additional footage to an extended cut. That's all I'm asking. Instead of just getting like, oh, just 2 or 3 minutes. No, give us 15. Or heck, just... even if you have to add in the deleted scenes, because when I bought the Halloween Kills extended cut, they still had the deleted scenes in there, so why not just add those into the extended cut? I mean, it wouldn't have extended it too much. It would have extended it by only about like 5 minutes instead of 3, but it still would have been better, I think. But that's it. That's it for those extended cuts, and that's it for the disappointing movies. So on to the movies that I actually consider the worst, like the most boring, where I've just felt absolutely nothing. Number 3 being the least worst that I've seen was Doom Annihilation. So I remember seeing the original Doom movie, the one that starred Dwayne Johnson and Carl Urban, and I honestly thought it was okay. I thought it was a little bit stupid, especially how they followed Doom 3 more than anything, and they still didn't follow the source material that much, but I thought it was okay. You got to see Dwayne Johnson and Carl Urban beat the crap out of each other at the end. It was great. So Doom Annihilation comes out. I saw the trailer for it. Didn't like it. I saw them propping up like the female lead as basically taking over the Doom guy's position as like basically the same thing that they were doing with Ray, or actually this was a better comparison. They were doing Ghostbusters 2016 with Doom Annihilation. I didn't have high hopes for it, but you know what? At the same time, I just got into playing Doom. I finished Doom 64. I played Doom 2016. I already pre-ordered Doom Eternal, mostly to get Doom 64 on there. And I was gearing up to play the original Doom video games as well, including Doom 3. So I decided, what the heck, I'll give this movie a shot. Once it came out, I believe I saw it on Netflix, and I was bored quickly. Don't get me wrong, there were some scenes that were pretty cool, like when they actually showed the BFG, it looked accurate, it just didn't actually shoot accurate, because the BFG is supposed to like vaporize its enemies, even in the original game. But this one, a shot hits you, it fizzles out, and they just fall to the ground. And that's not even getting into the main character either. And this has nothing to do with her being a female character, although the marketing didn't exactly help on that end either. But the whole character of Joan Dark, who, great job for stealing the main character's name from Perfect Dark, by the way. she's completely unlikable in my opinion, because turns out she's being sent to the moon base on Mars because she let terrorists run free. And they actually mentioned that multiple times in the film. Now, what did the terrorists do? I don't know. It's not explicitly said. But the fact that they keep bringing up she let a terrorist run away is proof enough that that her character does not make good judgment calls. And that's actually later proven in the movie when the demons actually show up. Which, speaking of the demons, the zombies suck. They're all like these like bluish pale monstrosities that actually kind of remind me of like those shadow demon things from Ash vs. Evil Dead. And then the only other demon that actually shows up is the imp, where the costumes just look so rubbery. You can almost see the human faces behind like the black mesh that's supposed to be like their mouths. It's actually kind of funny. And that's not even talking about like the crappy CGI of BFG shots or the imp's fireballs. There is this one other character who actually looks like Doom Guy, who even has a super shotgun that they kill off almost as quickly as they introduce him. But they should have made him the main character, because at the very least he looks like Doom Guy. They even have this one Easter egg of William J. Blazkowicz, who, if I'm right, is supposed to be the main character of Wolfenstein, or also the real name of Doom Guy, but it's just on a name tag of a dead guy. So that's another movie that spits in the face of the source material as well. But the only saving grace is that the shootouts and action are marginally fun, if provided that it's a late night and I have nothing to do. So that was so it was still a tiny bit fun, but at the time it really bored me. All right, number 2 on the list of worst movies that I've seen, most boring, is Death House. Now, Death House, this one, my hopes were stacked really high because I was led to believe that it was supposed to be like the Expendables of horror. Like, it was marketed as having like all of these great horror movie veterans in there, and it just got squandered. So basically, it's about these 2 like really obscure actors. One of them is Courtney Palm. I remember her from the movie Zombievers, and the only really good thing about that movie was Bill Burr's cameo. But so Courtney Palm and this other nameless actor, they're these 2 security guards or something. I don't know. And they're stuck in this super prison that's full of these really bad murderers and rapists, and they're basically fighting their way out. Now, there are horror movie veterans in there. Like you got Kane Hodder as the main villain. You got Gunnar Henderson, the original Leatherface, Bill Moseley. You got Sid Haig in there. You got Tony Todd. And you have that one guy who's in The Hills Have Eyes. As well as a lot of other horror movie actors. They even have Danny Trejo in there. But the problem where this all falls apart is that it was marketed as like having like pretty much every single horror movie actor in there. Unfortunately, you don't have Bruce Campbell, you don't have Brett Dourif, and you don't have Robert Englund. And the actors that you do have, like all the ones that I've mentioned, are relegated to just small cameos. Like Tony Todd, he appears at the beginning and he appears at the end. He's a bookend. You got Kane Hodder, who is the main antagonist, but he isn't really given much to do. I still don't know what his motives were. You got Bill Moseley and Gunnar Henderson, who are part of these, like, primordial supernatural gods, or whatever, that Kane Hodder is, I think, aspiring to be like. I'm not sure. Oh, and the guy from The Hills Have Eyes, he's in there too, as one of those, like, godlike beings. You got Sid Haig in a cameo at the beginning, and you got Danny Trejo as a cameo at the beginning. Overall, I was incredibly disappointed in this movie. Really, a better premise for a movie like this, like The Expendables of horror, would be if you had Bruce Campbell, Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, Gunnar Henderson, Brad Dourif, and Doug Bradley, who, by the way, if I'm right, he's not in it either, which is a shame because he was the original Pinhead. But it would have been cool to have like all these guys forming like this sort of like Black Ops team, just like the Expendables, and they're after this one ancient artifact that's similar to the Necronomicon, and they fight zombies and demons and ghosts and all this other kind of crap. Like, that would have been a much better movie than what we got for Death House. Or hell, just take that one Call of Duty Zombies map, the Call of the Dead one that had Sarah Michelle Gellar, Danny Trejo, Robert Englund, and somebody else, and just make a live-action movie of that. That would have been a way better movie than Death House. Because not only did it disappoint me, it bored me to death. Because just like with Doom Annihilation, I had to pause the movie, take a nap, and come back and finish it. That's how bored I was with it. All of that really pales compared to the #1 spot and the #1 worst movie, in my opinion, is #horror. Now this one I completely saw on a fluke, because I had no hope for this movie at all. Like, the title is called #horror. It has something to do with social media. So I already knew going in that it was gonna be bad. But hey, you got Timothy Hutton, the guy from Leverage. So it has to be good, right? No. Whatever hope I had for that movie died the minute the movie started rolling. The characters sucked. I don't remember any of them. Timothy Hutton's character just turns psychotic all of a sudden, and the acting just goes downhill from there. The little teenagers, the way they talk just makes me mad, especially because I know that teenagers do not always act like that. It made me want to see Anakin Skywalker kill the young ones again. That's how much I hated them. It was almost like they were trying to have the kids basically say what they do on like Twitter and Facebook, and they wanted them to say it in real life to each other's faces. The only problem is we know that people act way differently in real life than they do on social media. You could be cursing somebody out on a blue streak on Twitter, and then in real life you act all civilized. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but the way that acting was in that movie was on par with a CW show, if not arguably worse. So #horror is the worst movie I've ever seen. The most boring. I got no enjoyment out of it. Even Timothy Hutton's appearance did not save it for me, which is a shame because that guy's a great actor, and I loved it. I loved the TV show Leverage. That's all my worst movies that I've seen. I know that was technically unconventional, because usually people have worse movies being like The Room, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Star Wars The Last Jedi, Batman and Robin, the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd, like the ones that are obviously bad. But those ones I can still find enjoyment out of them because it's funny to watch how stupid they are. But these movies, and they were just scraping the bottom of the barrel for me because I couldn't find any enjoyment out of it. I couldn't even laugh at how stupid they were. They just were. That was my list for the worst movies I've ever seen and the most disappointing ones I've ever seen. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, and I'd love to hear like what you guys think your worst movies are. So, like the video, subscribe, and make sure to check out the video links that I leave in the description. And you guys have a good night.